basically asking the same thing, and they're saying that it says, please talk about your transition to Sadhguru Madhusudan Sai after Swami left his mortal coil. If you please.
Yes, yes, of course, of course. Well, Swami first had me go out alone, the only one. He sent me to Singapore in 2007, and it was a huge audience there, almost 3,000 people. He said, you go on this date, give a speech at this hour, blah, blah, blah. We got Dr. Yo or somebody was in charge. And in that speech, which he talked through me, as I pray he's doing now, he said, tell everybody that I'm leaving. I said, he's leaving, by the way. He told me he's not going to live to be 96. He's going to leave before that. And I thought I was going to get stoned before I got out of the place. And then 2 years later, he said, go to Texas, go to this side meeting at this church and tell him I'm leaving early. And so I became the bad guy, sort of ruining the fairy tale of Swami living to 96. And then when he didn't live to 96, again, a great Leela of his, many people left. He lied to us. He lied to us. You know, he lied to us. He's gone. And many people left. Many people left when all the murders happened. There were all kinds of things that he threw at all of his devotees. And he told me before a series of ugly things happened. He said, I'm going to separate the wheat from the chaff. Most of these people are around because I'm famous. They came to see the Messiah. They want a ring. They want to see a miracle. They want to believe in this. They want to believe in that. They're sitting, they're not devotees. He said, I'm going to run all of them off. And part of that last thing was dying early, 10 years early. But he told me before he left, he said, I've been living in the ashram for years and years. And he said, Tigrett, you stay in your room. This is before he died. You stay in your room. You know, I'm not going anywhere. I've always been here. I never arrived. Where am I going to go to? And he said, you stay in your room. I'll call you. We have much work to do. So I stayed in my room. I went to Omkar every morning, and I went to all the wonderful things I enjoyed so much there. And about a year or so went by, and I got a call from Murti, Sri Murti. And I'd seen him at the ashram in Puttaparthi several times. I knew that he was one of Swami's main educational teacher guys. And I had great respect for him. I had great vibes from him. So when he called me, he said, Swami's with me now. He's here, and he wants you to come right now to see him. I said, well, where is that? They said, it's this little school called Mutnahali. Now, there'd been a sign on the road, those thousands of trips I took to and from Puttaparthi that said, Sai Gamma, pointing, and when you go through Chikbalapur, but no one ever went there. No one ever knew of him going there. They knew that it was one of his schools, that this wonderful man had left him that died prematurely. And Swami had been sneaking over there, really, because he was going in and out. And he'd been brought in some architects and people, and he had started building things, lots of things, but nobody even knew, not even the Central Trust, because Swami had the money and he was writing the checks. He was writing the checks. So he hit it incredibly well. So I went there. It was amazing. All these buildings were being built, and there was beautiful sort of mountain. I mean, that's in the Nandi Hills. It's a famous religious place where there was wars and battles and demons dropped to the ground and so forth. But all these stones were part of the battle. And there was a group of stones at the top. Before he died, he just approved some plans to build this. It's one of the last things he did. He gave him a check for whatever, $8 million to do all this stuff. So I went to this school, and I was amazed, because not only was, it was beautiful, but it was growing. It's tripled in size since the time I went there. So I went up to the house, up the hill, and went inside, and there was Murti, and we went into this little interview room, and there was a big throne, and I sensed that Sai was on the throne, and at his feet was this boy who was called Madhusudan, who I'd seen in the ashram. He's one of his gold medal students, and seen him around a lot. Swami talking to him and carrying on. So Madhusudan was receiving telepathically at that point, telepathically from Sai Baba. He was receiving messages, and Sai Baba, the first, you know, if you ever saw Sai give speeches and anywhere, we had a translator. He was constantly telling them they were wrong. He was constantly criticizing their translations and everything from Telugu into English. And it was the same thing going on. This young boy was trying to, he's getting to see, he was receiving, and he was talking. And Sai Baba, first things he says, Tigrett, I'm really sorry. I had to wait for a year for you to come here, but I had no way to talk to you because Madhusudan, my student, did not speak Telugu, and I transmit in Telugu. So I've been teaching Telugu for the past year. And so now he can do it. And he still, as the boy is speaking, if he doesn't say the right word, boy, Swami jumps right on him. And that's the way it was with Phyllis and I too. If Phyllis, who was receiving and was the one who was narrating, said one wrong word, he was brutal about saying it absolute. So only 5 people even knew he was there. And he had me give a speech not long after. No one knew he wasn't coming down. I was surprised when he came down. He sent me up to, anyway, long story short, he came down, he announced he was what he was, and everything. This boy was speaking through him. And as time evolved, you know, we started this travel thing. I spoke over 100 speeches in something like 50 countries over 7 or 8 years. And thank you, Deepa, for that. This lovely lady who sent them to me, and SR, who I love and adore, who is the magic behind the Yuvacha series, who I hope's tuned in. I love you too, very much. Anyway, he started, I would be on the airplane going somewhere. We would meet at the airport. Sai Baba was not inside him. But we would go to wherever we're going. We get off the plane, and the second we get off the plane, Swami would enter his body. And then we went to whoever house it was, and the speeches were given and everything. And then we get back on the plane, he wasn't there. I traveled with Madhusudan. He was, you know, reading magazines and watching movies, and all his friends were there. There was with it was fascinating, slowly evolved. And then I saw, which was amazing, he allowed me to see his light body entering Madhusudan. And that was first in Australia. And suddenly it was like something, you know, science fiction movie, but I could see, he let me see. Anything that I experienced, he let me experience. I didn't have the power to do it myself, but I just, I watched him enter Madhusudan's body. And I watched him suddenly appear his side, talk his side, be his side, everything else. And then I saw him leave. And this was such an extraordinary thing. And it got more and more and more and more. And of course, Madhusudan wrote several books, which we published about this experience that he had with this whole transition. And if you haven't read it, you should read it. I can't remember the name of it. We published 2 or 3 of them. It's all about his own transition and how he went through all of this and how he experienced it. And then Sai being inside of him, and he gives really good descriptions. And I don't know the name of that book. I know you all know it. He wrote 2 versions of it. And it explains everything in those books, exactly what was happening to him. As time went on, we were getting nearer and nearer the 96th year. My mission will last to the 96th year. But I watched it that he had brought Madhusudan up to a point now he was in his body all the time. All the time. That went on for about 2 years, at least, maybe 3, which was extraordinary to me. Extraordinary. Now, I don't know if he left his body when Madhusudan was back in his room or whatever, but suddenly he was there all the time. Many conversations with him, many wonderful moments, and he was such a joker. He was hilarious as well. It was so great to be with him, and even in that bizarre state. But he raised Madhusudan up to the Satguru level. Madhusudan is as high as you're going to get without being an avatar or a totally realized being. He is to be absolutely followed. He is to be, whatever he tells you to do, you should do it. You should believe in him. He is the caretaker until Premasai comes. You got to realize that all these schools, you're talking about 29 schools being built in Karnataka alone. You're talking about hospitals being built all over the world, these pediatric hospitals. And Madhusudan is the one that first saw in his body with his power and everything else. But people in the inner circle, they respected Madhusudan to the group when they knew he was a Satguru. And he's the one that's pushing the projects along and giving advice. And he should be listened to and cared for and adored, and because he's size reflection. Such an important boy, man, guru, Satguru. So don't be confused by all that. If you confuse yourself, then your faith is limited. I'm so lucky to have had this experience. All I can do is tell you, yes, Sai was speaking through him. He was entering his body. And then eventually he was there all the time. And then the 96 year came, and that was the end of the mission because everything was set. Ooh, everything has gone off. Am I still on camera somewhere? Can you all hear me?
Yes, you are. Yes.
Oh, there I came back. Somebody put me in the cosmos for a moment. So I'm just telling you that, yes, that was my experience. You got to realize my experience with Sai Baba is now 5 decades, 50 years. And it's been this transition for me all the way, as it is for everyone who's devoted. And even if you came and you're a devotee and then you lost your faith, that's no big deal. In fact, it's expected. One of the greatest ways that Swami taught, always, he give you faith, then you take it away. He give you faith, and then you take it away. He give you faith, and then you take it away. But it always came back for you to question and to see just how much faith you really had. And you take it away. That's all part of the relationship with the guru. It's all part of it. It's very, very important. Have faith, have it go. These things are not important for you to, have. The things that you should be looking at is what has happened since Sai left his body. All of these schools being built. All these people, who knows where the money comes from? All these schools being built. All of these hospitals being built, all these people energizing behind him and doing everything much more than Sai Baba did when he was in his body. We built 10 times more stuff. It's just amazing. But that's what you've got to look at, the product. You may not be able to understand the Sai being in the boy's body and the boy whatever, and speaking through him or whatever, but look what the results are. They're pure. The results are pure. They're real. Those hospitals exist. I've been to every one of them. In fact, he's been kind enough to invite me to go to Fiji in May, I think, which will be very nice. I have some wonderful friends down there who I miss very much. So that's the way it is. And you shouldn't, your faith is given, it's taken away. It's all part of your evolution. And if you leave, a lot of people jump gurus. When Swami died, there was one little group that all jumped to the next guru because they needed that attention. They needed that, but that's on the outside. It's not on the inside.
Thank you, brother. It was so enlightening to listen to that. I don't know how much time we have, so.
What do you mean? I have all the time in the world. You guys just seem to want to go off and eat something or go drink some coffee or tea or come on. I'm not going to be alive much longer.
One question that is, I think in US, all of us have in our mind is, what is your involvement with the clinic in Clarksdale, and what kind of support might be needed there? And can you tell us more about it, like from your understanding, what might happen there?
When we were doing the hospitals and I was traveling with him, and he knows all about my life and where I came from. I was born in the deep South in Tennessee and was raised by African Americans. And a big part of my life, the House of Blues, was something that he asked me to do. He said, I want you to raise the consciousness of the African American contribution to American culture. And that was right up my alley. It was perfect. It was wonderful. But one day I was talking to him about, the poorest state in the world is right where my people are from, Mississippi. And the poorest town's Clarksdale. And can we ever do something down there? And he was so sweet. I mean, it was I thought it was just for me for a second, but I realized later it wasn't. But he said, yes, we're going to do something in Clarksdale. We'll go there and we will open a clinic and eventually we'll have a hospital there. And I know if he says it, it's going to happen. And so we went down and I played a small role. The people in Atlanta, they're wonderful, wonderful devotees in Atlanta, did most of the heavy lifting. And it was not a hospital, it was a clinic, prenatal, postnatal clinic. And I understand now that they're going to open 50 of those in India. That is a new plan that they have. They're not expensive to build. They take care of so many people. One of the reasons all these kids are born with holes in their hearts is because of bad nutrition from the mother. And it's always in poor countries and poor places like in India or South America or here or there, many places around the world, because in India, they're having eating rice and chapatis. And this causes that nutrition causes these babies to be born with holes in their heart or bad valves, which of course they can't function properly and they usually die before they're 10. So these clinics are even a greater idea. I thought, wow, that's fantastic. And, it's just wonderful to see it keep going. When Sai Baba saved Chennai, the water project, when the city of Chennai, they'd had, I think, 4 years of no monsoons. There was no water. The water taps were cut off. People were leaving the city, as I have many civilizations and cities when the water went. The poor couldn't leave. They were dying. And the rich, they had pictures of these long tankers, with water going to all the rich folks' house, putting water in all their tanks, And Sai Baba said, I'm going to save Chennai. And I was there when he mortgaged the ashram itself, all of the properties that had been left to him, every dime that he had, every school, all the properties, everything mortgaged to do that project. And it was so interesting because he didn't get much credit for it. When the water ran a few months later, they found an old culvert, and Larsen & Toubro came along and they put a lot of money into it too. In a very short period of time, they brought water to Chennai. But nobody, it wasn't like Sai Baba saved the city or anything. I went to him, I'm a PR fanatic. I said, Swami, you're getting no credit for these things. You're doing this other water project. Nobody seems to know about it, except your devotees. He said, oh, no, I don't want a lot of people coming down here. If I do all these things, more devotees and more people will come out of curiosity and I won't be able to walk through the crowds anymore. He was very anti getting credit, especially publicly, for these things, which I found fascinating.
There are a couple of questions that they are basically